First of all, I would like to congratulate for the successful visit to China and Japan. And it's been well spread in the Chinese community already.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the main achievement of your visit to Zhejiang and Shanghai?
Well, I think it's shown that the new West Australian government is very committed to the relationship with China. China is our biggest trading partner by a long way. And so I wanted to send a message that we're committed to the relationship, but we want to broaden the relationship. So it's not just about iron ore and minerals and gas. It's also about tourism and higher education, student exchanges and the like. So it was all about making sure that we broaden and deepen the relationship between Western Australia and China.
That's great. But to my understanding that WA's economic success depended more heavily on China, and the slowdown and frustration of our economy is also attributed to China, maybe because their demand is not there. So what do you think we can increase our domestic demand and supply instead of depending on the international market?
Well, yesterday the figures came out that showed our domestic economy is growing again, so that shows that there's good signs for small and medium-sized businesses in Western Australia, which is terrific. But I do think that our relationship with China, despite the fact that Western Australia hasn't been as strong in the last couple of years as it was historically, the relationship with China remains important, and whilst iron ore exports are still growing, and so is oil and gas is still growing, I do think the opportunity for tourism, higher education, expansion is very big. In China, for instance, there's about 110 million people with passports, but that's growing rapidly. And so people are looking for alternative destinations to where they went before. So not just Sydney and Melbourne and not just the United States, they're looking for alternatives which are perhaps a bit different, a bit more exotic. And so I think Western Australia offers that.
I've noticed that as you indicated in your media statement that last year we have attracted 51,100 visitors from China. But so far as I know that the number of visitors to Australia last year is 1.4 million. What do you think may be the cause of that big gap or discrepancy?
Well, I think we missed the boat a little bit on attracting tourists and students from China, and the eastern states were certainly far more proactive in marketing and working with Chinese tourism operators and Chinese universities to get tourists and students here. And we just relied too much on our mining and oil and gas. So we're changing that around. We're actually being very proactive in the Chinese market space about tourists and about students, and that's why I took a delegation of 40 higher education and tourism operators with me when I went to Zhejiang and Shanghai. And I think that will change, but obviously we have not been as strong in tourists and in students with China as we should have been. I also think it's a two-way street. We should be looking at Australian tourists going to China and Australian students going to China to study. So there's mutual beneficial arrangements that can be developed.
Did you discuss with the Chinese counterparts about the numbers, Chinese visitors to WA and WA's visitors to Zhejiang or to Shanghai?
I did, and I was very clear that I have been to China myself as a tourist, not as an MP, as a tourist, and I was very clear it was a very good experience and that Australians should look at those opportunities, and also West Australians studying in China is an opportunity we should look at. But of course, there's far many more Chinese people than there are West Australians, so the opportunities for Chinese people to come to Western Australia to study or on holidays is also very great.